Okay, everyone, it's Bob again, and I am back this time to talk about Elvira in Horrorland #1. As you can plainly see, I am an Elvira fan. I've always been an Elvira fan. I have almost all of the Elvira in the House of Mystery that DC did back in the 80s. I also have the 90s collection of Elvira comics. I can go through those another time. This is more recent. I believe it's from 2022. And this is Elvira in Horrorland #1. So again, I'm always a little, uh, cautious when it comes to doing a new comic, something that came out around, more in the present time, because I usually feel like I don't get anything. I don't get a story. I don't get characterization. Um, I don't get explanations for anything. I'm usually just lost. And honestly, after that, I just feel like I don't want to continue on to try to find out everything. This one is a little different. I have to say, this was completely enjoyable. I loved everything about this comic. And it actually starts off, and Elvira says here, "Hey kids, you read the inside front cover and get all caught up." And right here, it actually tells you everything that took place beforehand. So while this is a #1, it apparently is a continuation from another story. Um, but basically, from what I understand here, I'll just read what happened. Elvira and the ghost of Vincent Price saved a screen queen actress who'd been imprisoned in the pocket dimension created by All Films. Didn't you know about these? By her creepy director. They trapped the director in the hell of his own making, and Vincent sent the actress back to reality as he returned to the afterlife. But something went wrong, and Elvira ended up still in a different dark corner of the movie dimension. Okay, so basically that's it. She's in a movie dimension, and as you can plainly see from this, it would be Psycho, because that would be the Bates Motel behind her. And apparently, in order to get out of this dimension, she will need a magical television remote. Okay? So, of course, Elvira is just making, her own jokes and everything. She goes up to the hotel in order to find a, to find this remote, because she has a feeling that the remote is going to be wherever the bad guy is. And then Norman, who is actually Norbert in this, comes out, but he's realizing that things are happening at the wrong time. She's saying his lines before he can. Rain hasn't started yet when it's supposed to be raining. And all of this is kind of driving him a little crazy. He's saying, stop it, that's my line. You're taking my lines. And of course, this is Elvira. Elvira always enjoys, being annoying and things like that, or annoying certain people. Okay, little preview here of a comic, I guess. Let's see. Okay. Norbert says, he has to go. He hears his mother calling him, so he's running to go get his mother. And Elvira's like, okay, well, I'm pretty sure the mother's corpse will have this remote that I'm looking for. So she goes to sneak up into the house. And as she sneaks in, she realizes that the other woman, the original woman, has showed up now at the Bates Motel. In this book, it's called the Block Motel. Okay, and she's starting to feel a little guilty, so she decided to run back to try to save this woman. Okay, she busts in on the woman and tries to explain everything that's going on, which is hard to do considering that she's trying to explain that she's in this person's movie, but this person is the actual character and not the actress. And then here we are where the shower scene takes place, and Norman, dressed as his mother, comes in with a knife. Only we find out that it's actually Elvira that, it's Elvira that, sorry, I'm trying to get the lighting right on this. This is a really reflective paper. But it was Elvira that was there, and then we have the other woman come out and knock him out with a chair. So Elvira and her go into the house to find the mother. They also tied up Norbert and left him there. But then we get another Norbert, And it's weird because this guy is in color, whereas the rest of everything was in black and white. Um, so they go and they find the mother, and immediately they're attacked by this person. So they find out that this is actually Vince Vaughn from the Psycho remake, and that's why he's in color. And then because they're interacting with him, apparently they also become in color. But they end up knocking him out, and Elvira finds the remote, and then of course meets Alfred Hitchcock, and has a small talk with him. Hits the button on the remote, hoping to go home, and ends up in The Shining. So actually, issue number 2 of this was pretty good. This was a completely fun book. I love this. I ended up getting the rest of the series. As you can see here, the cover for issue number 2 is where she is in the Overlook Hotel, and she'll have to be looking for the remote in there. Apparently, the remote disappears every time she uses it, ends up in a different movie. And you can see the amount of alternative covers here that came with these books. I don't buy into that. Whichever one was sitting there is the one I grabbed. Mostly whichever actually had a photo of Elvira, since I appreciate that the most. All right, well, this was an easy, quick read, but to be honest, there was actually a lot of substance in here. The jokes were pretty funny. They actually landed. I liked the artwork. I liked the story idea. This is a good book, and I fully recommend it. All right, guys, so again, my name is Bob. I am the creator of Ghost Girl. I'm currently working on that comic, and when completed, I will be doing a Kickstarter in order to publish it. If you like this video, please like and subscribe. I'm trying to get my name out there and build up an audience that might be interested in my book when it is completed. So I want to thank you guys for watching. Until next time. Okay, hello everyone, and welcome to another video. This time we're going to be talking about Elvira in Horrorland number 2. My name is Bob. I'm a comic book artist. I make these videos just reminiscing about comics that are kind of significant to me. And while these are newer comics, this is just something where it's like, you know, for a while I've been stuck getting older comics because those are the only ones that I really related to. A lot of the newer comics I find just too difficult to get into because they're just doing continuations of stories that have been going on for a year, and they don't really kind of do any recaps or anything, so I always feel like I never know what's going on, or I don't know any of the characters. Of course, I do know Elvira because I've been a huge fan of Elvira since I was a kid. So I was pleasantly surprised when I purchased these new comics, and to be perfectly honest with you, I'm enjoying the hell out of them. These are comics that I loved, and I plan on going through this whole series here. So to begin with the last issue, we had Elvira. She's going through different dimensions that are basically movies. So the first comic, she was in Psycho, and she was looking for a magic remote that will help her get home. And at the end of that comic, she was warped into another movie, and as we can see here with the dialogue that's coming out of her mouth and the axe that's coming through the door, she was transported into The Shining. So without further ado, let's do Elvira in Horrorland number 2. One thing I really like about this, first off, I'm a big fan of the artwork. This is awesome stuff. I think this guy does a great Elvira. The artist is or her actually, Sylvia Califano. Didn't know that. I had never looked at the artist before. She does an awesome job with Elvira. So I do like that on the inside cover, they actually give you info on what had taken place before. So you're getting, you know, they're catching you up to speed before you begin the next story. So if you missed an issue, you can read this and know what is going on. I really appreciate that because, again, that was something that I was not getting with a lot of other comics. But here she is. She had just popped up in front of the Overlook Hotel, and she's going in now to find the remote control of Federico Fellini. Okay, that's the remote that will end up getting her home. Now, of course, this is a continuation of a book that came before that I did not purchase, where I think her and Vincent Price were going through something. I'm not sure what, and this is when she got warped into like this movie dimension. So I'm going to have to pick that up and check it out. But I am enjoying these. Okay, so here she is, at the Overlook Hotel. Goes in and she's talking to herself. She's making jokes as she goes about all of this stuff. She's trying to find out where in The Shining she is at this moment so she can know what to expect. So she does go into the gold room where she ends up talking to the bartender. Okay. And the bartender's kind of telling her, hey, you don't belong here. You're a disruptive influence. I find that to be funny. Okay. She's sitting here making a bunch of jokes and trying to get a little information from him. She had basically asked him where in the movie they are, and we get this jump cut to Wednesday, which apparently scares the crap out of her. He explains that that's the title card that'll pop up from now and then, and that she did ask. So she's recollecting in the movie that on Wednesday, a bunch of crazy stuff happens, okay? So she leaves the gold room, and she's wondering if the remote may be near the typewriter that Jack Nicholson was typing on, when suddenly you get another jump title card, and it cuts her straight to the room that Jack Nicholson was writing in. Okay, so she sees that he was writing, and she's going to take a look at what he was writing, and we all know from the movie, it's all work and no play make Jack a dull boy. Okay, but we're going to get something else now. As I was reading this to remember the story, I saw this, and I have to say, not a fan. I had never really read Vampirella comics before, but everyone knows what Vampirella looks like, and this anime thing here, like I like anime, but I don't know, this just does not seem to fit with the character. I don't know, I'm just saying, it's good artwork, it's just not something that appealed to me personally. Okay, I like more like something like this, or when they get a model to do it or whatever, it's pretty awesome. So anyway, she jumps. We're back in the room here, and she's reading what Jack Nicholson had typed, and it says the miniseries was better. The miniseries was better, and she's like completely shocked. She's like, he has truly gone completely dangerously insane because no rational man could type this. I find that to be hilarious. Basically, because he's saying that the miniseries was better than a Stanley Kubrick film. It's funny stuff. Even if the miniseries stayed truer to the book than Stanley Kubrick's version of the movie. Okay, so Jack Nicholson does jump in, and he says, I'm not falling for this twice. Every time that there's a sexy ghost, they just turn into some kind of rotting corpse whenever he tries to make out with them. She assures him that she's neither a sexy ghost nor a rotting corpse. Okay, she does call him Nick Jackelson, so of course, I guess not to have any kind of copyright issues or anything like that. And he states that he's not Jackelson, he's Torrance, Nick Torrance. Okay, she tries to explain why she's there, and he's just like, I don't understand a single thing that you've said. Now we get a visit from Wendy, who is not Wendy in this, it's Mandy. But I did crack up at this where he's like, oh good, now I can get nagged in stereo. I actually laughed out loud, and it's hard for a comic to do that to me. And I was a person who grew up reading Mad Magazine and such, so I did crack up at that. And then I cracked up on this because, of course, when I read it, I'm going to read it the way that Jack Nicholson did in the movie, and I'm probably going to attempt to do that right now, so I'm going to go ahead and apologize for the horrible impersonation I'm about to do. But it's Mandy, darling, light of my life. I have no idea who this woman is. Okay, sorry, just found it hilarious. Okay, now they do mention that she's not the crazy hot naked chick from the tub in room 2001. So this is going to be more of a Stanley Kubrick reference to another movie, the movie 2001, instead of being the room in the Overlook where that took place. Okay, Wendy doesn't know what's going on. Again, it's not Wendy, it's Mandy. Let's not mess up the copyright issues that could take place here or something like that. So here we go with Nick Torrance trying to take the bat away from Mandy. And Elvira's just like, you know what? He's unarmed. You have the high ground, which I feel is another joke from Star Wars. If anybody says high ground from now on, we're going to immediately flash back to Revenge of the Sith. Okay, so she's just like, go ahead and knock him one. You've got the high ground. You've got the weapon. You can win this. So Stanley Kubrick jumps in and gives Nick Torrance an axe. And, Elvira's just like, what the hell? I had this under control. And Stanley Kubrick's like, no one else is going to have control over my movie. So I did this. So now Nick is chasing them through the hallways. They go into the bathroom and lock the door. Elvira says, let me borrow this while you go take this kid out the window and escape. The kid is saying, Arrivla, which is Elvira backwards. So I find that to be a little hilarious. He also wrote that backwards on the door here. So they leave, and Jack bursts through the door here. Now, I did forget to mention that while this is going on, Jack is this Jack is doing his sayings from a ton of other movies. Okay, so he's like, "You want the truth? You can't handle the truth." Okay, or he jumps in with "Never rub another man's rhubarb." You make me want to be a better man. I actually found all of that to be kind of hilarious because these are all of the things that you're going to remember Jack Nicholson for. Just like, if Arnold was saying, I'll be back, So he burst in and he's like, ever dance with the devil in the pale moonlight? Obviously from Batman, where she takes over as the Michael Keaton character. You want to get nuts? Come on, let's get nuts. And she whacks him over the head and then runs off. Now, Mandy and the child, Kenny, I believe, escape. Okay, and she's making sure that she's running fast enough that she won't see the bear pig sex room, even though she says not to kink shame or anything. It's just not what she wants to see. I found that to be funny as well. This is when she runs into Halloran, where he makes the joke that was apparently his name in a spoof that was done in Mad Magazine as well. So I actually find that to be hilarious because that would be the easiest joke about his name to come up with. So Mad Magazine had already done it first, and they're just like, you know what? Yeah, we're gonna bite. We did the same thing too, but we're gonna let you know where we got it from. Okay, so she saves Halloran from Jack Nicholson so he doesn't get killed. She takes them running, but they do run into some ghosts on the way. As she's taking him. Now he's like saying, hey, something's wrong here because I think I'm supposed to be dead. And she's like, yeah, you can thank me later. Let's get out of here. Where they run into the evil Doublemint twins in the hallway. And they're asking where Kenny is because this is supposed to be a shot with Kenny that they're seeing. But when Kenny's not around, they automatically assume you killed Kenny, you bastards. Lots of television and movie references in here. So I feel like this book is made for a certain audience who would know and get this type of stuff. But I appreciate it because I am that audience. So I did enjoy it. They go running and they get to the elevators where Elvira has an idea and tells them to jump up on these couches here as Jack Nicholson is showing up again doing another line from another movie. If you gotta go with a smile. Okay? They open up the floodgates, as it were, where the flood of blood, the blood flood, pours out of the elevators, getting Jack Nicholson, blowing him out the door, where he then freezes. Okay? Now, you hear, is it my turn yet? And Elvira's like, not for another, 40 years, Obi-Wan, because this would be the continuation, Dr. Sleep, starring Ewan McGregor. Okay, reference. But she's like, I didn't find a remote anywhere, and Halloran's like, hey, did you ever go to room 2001? Maybe it's in there. So she's again afraid that she's going to run into this bear pig thing in that room. She goes to the room where this is supposed to be the hot woman that will turn into the rotting corpse. But the person who comes out from behind the curtain is the astronaut from the movie 2001. Okay? And he's pretty much quoting things out of that movie as he takes her on, her next step in her time-space odyssey. So she makes a joke of, whoa, was that a monolith in your pants? Or are you just glad to see me? And she says, I bet you get that a lot. And he says, I do, which I find to be funny. So anyway, she steps through the monolith, and there's a picture here of Elvira amongst the party that was taking place at the Overlook so many years ago. But she zaps into aliens, or alien, I should say. So the first alien. And it says here next, Ridley's Believe It or Not, or Geiger encounter. Okay. So I do find that funny. I do have that comic, and I will be going through it. So again, this is something I fully recommend. I think that the book is hilarious. And this is it. This is the Elvira meets Vincent Price thing that I was talking about. This is awesome artwork here. I love this. This looks like Elvira. This looks like Vincent Price. This is all very good. So I'm going to be purchasing this, and I'll probably do a video on that later. But this was Elvira in Horrorland #2. And here are the alternate covers that come with this book. I actually would have went for this. I like getting the ones with the photographed Elviras. But again, the artwork is nice. This is a cool one too. I have this one. It was whatever cover they had on the rack is what I grabbed. I wasn't trying to just go out and get every cover to the book or anything like that. But there you go. I fully recommend this book. If you if you haven't had it or anything like that, I think the Elvira books seem to be pretty good. Again, my name is Bob. I'm a comic book artist, and I'm trying to get my name out there. If you liked this video, hit like. It helps with the growth of my channel, where I can get a bigger audience that might want to support the comics that I'll be creating. With that said, I am currently creating my comic Ghost Girl, and within the next month or two, I should be complete with that, where I will have a Kickstarter campaign in order to get the funds for publication. If that's something you feel like you might be interested in, hit subscribe so you can stay up to date with any new information. All right, guys, again, thanks for watching, and until next time. All right, everybody, hello. I'm back again, this time doing Elvira in Horrorland #3. I've read this series before. I'm enjoying the hell out of it. I'm going to do all the books. I think the people who are watching my videos appreciate it, because those are the ones that usually get the most views and the most likes. So without further ado, here we go. Elvira in Horrorland #3. As we left off the last issue, which was The Shining, Elvira got a hold of the remote, and it took her to the ship in the movie Alien. So here we pick up where Sigourney Weaver and, oh man, I can't believe, Ian Holm are at the window looking into the airlock here where Elvira appeared. And everybody's just like, where did this woman come from and everything, while this area decompresses or pressurizes. Either way, I'm not sure, you know. So she's like, hey, let's open this door and get out of here, whatever. And Ian Holm's character here just says, oopsie, and opens the door. While he's getting yelled at by Sigourney Weaver, he's like, I said oopsie, what more do you want? I find that hilarious. Sorry. So basically, she comes in and she's like, kind of telling them what's going on with this movie already, like giving them a heads up, like, hey, that guy, there's an alien that's going to pop out of his chest later on in the movie, and he's going to kill everybody, and blah, blah, blah. And the Tom Skerritt character here is just like, I don't know about any of this. I am going to have to talk to Mother to get any kind of information. I think that's a running gag throughout this book, is that he doesn't be able to, he's not able to make his own decisions at all. He needs to constantly talk to Mother, even though I don't think he actually does throughout the entire comic. But they end up putting her in the brig, where she's going on about how she didn't even know this ship had a brig, and she doesn't even know where to begin to look for the magic remote that will take her back home. And then Sigourney Weaver shows up, and she's like, hey, this guy, the alien dropped off his face, and he's perfectly fine. And Elvira's like, oh, well, he's at lunch right now, right? And Sigourney's like, yeah, of course, he is. How do you know all of this? Now, this is a thing that gets me in movies or comic books or whatever. When you have a character from a different world or something like that, come in. They can never explain to the other people what is going on. They always act like it's going to be the craziest thing, and it's going to be. It's going to be the craziest thing. But what they explain isn't any crazier when they try to come up with what they think is a better excuse. So, this is the future of Earth here, and she's acting like none of these people have ever heard of movies before. So she says that, she learned all of this from a story that's like a folk tale. And it's just like, okay, I don't see how that's any crazier than her saying, I saw it in a movie. But whatever. So, of course, Sigourney doesn't really believe her, but then you see here that apparently the alien popped out during lunch, and you can hear them screaming, kill it, kill it. And then she's a little like, oh, well, here we go, So they go to the mess hall aboard the ship, and everybody's now talking about a plan that they're going to do to get the alien out. Use cattle prods, chase it to the airlock, suck it out. Elvira keeps pointing out that they had guns on their suits in the beginning of the movie, and that they should probably use those. But nobody is going for that idea. She also explains to the cat that the alien is not the kind of alien that eats cats like Alf. Later on down here, the cat is thinking to himself, Alf, that name haunts the nightmares of my kind. I find that hilarious. Also, she's actually thinking to herself with thought bubbles, and she's like, hey, thought balloons, you really don't see these in comics anymore. And you don't. It's usually done with a square that's more like a narration or something like that, is where you get the character's inner thoughts. But here he is, where he's like, okay, I'm going to have to talk to Mother again or whatever. But we're going to go with this plan of chasing him to the airlock with the cattle prods and getting him out of here. She explains everything again, like I was saying, with the actual guns and all this, and they're just looking at her like she's crazy. Even the cat stopped cleaning himself in order to look at her and be like, what are you talking about, and she gets put back in the brig again, which is hilarious. So of course Sigourney Weaver comes in and says, hey, everything you said is true, everything's happening just the way you said it was, so I'm starting to believe you. So what do we do to get out of here? And Elvira starts kind of giving them a plan and letting her know that, she destroys the ship and gets out on an escape pod, but only after everybody else dies. And then we have the Tom Skerritt character show up here smiling. And Elvira's like, oh, well, it's the captain, and he's smiling, so that's a bit of a surprise. And when we turn the page, it's actually the alien here holding his head, which I thought was kind of funny. So they move this thing here to kind of block the door to hit the alien and squeeze him against the wall so that they can't get a hold of him. She's saying that was a great idea. It shows why you survived for 3 movies. And she says, wait, 3 movies? So how do I... there were 4 Alien movies, and all 4 had Sigourney Weaver, even though the last one was a clone. So I guess she survived that movie, but not... I can't even remember Alien Resurrection because it was so bad I refused to watch it like a second time. So I don't know if she survived that movie, but the 3rd movie she didn't survive because she threw herself into a vat of molten lead while an alien was emerging from her chest. So I don't feel like she survived that one, but whatever. So anyway, they're running through the ship trying to get away from this alien when they run into Ian Holmes' character, and Elvira's like, there's something you need to know about this guy. He's a row, and then Ian Holmes just clocks her, which is like, what the hell? But he's like, a Rotarian? I quit that club years ago. And Elvira's like, no, he's a freaking robot. And he's like, oh, well, yeah, I am. So while they're fighting the whole time, the alien's outside the window here, and he's just like, okay, they seem kind of busy. I'm just going to wait until later before I kill them, which I think is hilarious. The rest of the people come in and help. An interesting story here. The character here, played by Yaphet Kotto. When I was like 17, I used to work at a place inside of a gallery, a fast food type of place or whatever. And Yaphet Kotto would come in there almost every day to get lunch. So I would see him and kind of chat with him. I believe at the time he was doing a show called Homicide. So that was kind of wild. that I met him on so many occasions. But yeah, Ian Holm here, is elbowing Elvira when Yaphet clocks him, takes his head off. So they're like, okay, we're going to go with your plan to self-destruct the ship, and we're all going to get off of here. And they're like, but there's only 3 pods on here or whatever for people. And Elvira's like, I won't be going with you, because she just realized where the remote is, and she says it's always in the villain's lair, and that villain's lair is going to be Mother, since Mother is the one that, set everything up, basically. So they start going to the escape pods, while she's also talking about, what they would have done if they had used the guns here, and it's like, so, and when I hit it and it bleeds a hole through the deck, Sigourney Weaver's like, we run to the next bulkhead door and seal it. The acid blood causes a hull breach. It's behind us and sealed off. And then she's like, I wonder why I never thought of that before. And Elvira's like, lazy writing, probably. Yeah, just funny stuff, I guess I is always able to see something in hindsight, when after it's completed or something like that. But as they're going, they get attacked by the alien. This character lets off with the machine guns here, shoots them, and I love how he's just going, ow, 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 ow. And of course, the acid blood burns a hole through the floor, and the alien drops through there. Okay, so they go around, and this is where we cut out of the fourth wall of the thing, and Ridley Scott's like, hey, you can't just do what you want to do. There's a script going on. And then suddenly somebody pushes Ridley Scott out of the way, and it's James Cameron, and he's like, I can't believe you would make a movie with just one of these aliens. The only way to make this better is to have dozens of aliens. And apparently when he pushed Ridley right in front of these aliens who are now eating him. And James Cameron's like, see, now that's action. And then he's like, wait a minute, because there's so many aliens now. They jump on him, take him out. And of course he has to say Hudson's line here, game over, man. Game over, as he's being eaten. So, in the movie Alien, Yaphet's character apparently only ever talks about getting that damn bonus, and that's all he does in this comic, which I think is hilarious, because it's like every other thing he says is just about getting that bonus, okay? So, of course, Elvira makes a joke here about these directors being eaten, and they go off with their plan or whatever and say goodbye to each other, because Elvira's going to Mother's, the room which contains Mother, which is a supercomputer or whatever, while they go to the escape pod. So she does. She finds the remote right in there. And then, of course, Mother is like, there's insufficient data, and that this interdimensional device needs to be submitted for science officer analysis. And Elvira's like, oh yeah, well, that's not going to happen. So Mother sets the self-destruct for 10 minutes, but Elvira just hits the button and whoosh, and appears in Nancy's nightmare with Freddy Krueger. So I think that's an awesome way to end, because that definitely made me want to get the next book. So again, hilarious stuff. I enjoyed it. I think it's great artwork. It's a lot of fun. And for a newer book and everything, because I'm not usually a big fan of newer books, I think this is completely awesome. Here is a whole thing of the alternate covers that came out with this book. This is actually the one that I got. I like the ones with the real picture of Elvira on the front. But there you go, guys. Now again, my name is Bob, and I am a comic artist. I'm currently working on my comic Ghost Girl, which should be completed in about a month or two. If you like this video, please hit like so that my channel can grow, and I'm trying to get my name out there, to be a comic artist. If you liked the video and want to see more, hit subscribe, so that way you get more information when new videos come out. I generally have a new video coming out every day. Also, if you want to know any information about my comic Ghost Girl when it's complete, and where you'll be able to get the book, hit subscribe so you'll be able to get any of that information. Alright guys, well thanks for watching, and until next time. Alright, hey everybody, it's Bob again, and today I'm going to be doing Elvira in Horrorland number 4, so I'm almost done the complete series. The last one, of course, is number 5, and I'll be doing that as a future episode. So let's get to it. First of all, I think this is my favorite cover so far of the book. I'm just a big Elvira fan. I think she is just extremely beautiful. Beautiful. I've always felt that way. So I like getting the ones that actually have her picture on the front, and I just thought this was a wild picture. Even though we know if we've all seen the movie Mistress of the Dark, there was that scene where she was lying in bed and she has like all this hair behind her, like it's her hair spread out or whatever, and she gets up and that's kind of like just a blanket. It's not her actual hair, and we all know she wears a wig anyway, but that's what I think of when I see this, because I'm like, obviously this is not, you know, her hair or whatever, but it's still an awesome picture and I love it. So basically she has from the last issue, she was on the Nostromo, or as they called it in the book, Nostrono, doing a parody of Alien, when she found the magic remote control of Federico Fellini and hit the button, which then took her into the movie Nightmare on Elm Street, okay? And she appears there, and they're just like, you know, what the hell? Who are you? Where did you come from? Blah, blah, blah. And she's just like, hey, you know, have you guys seen, you know, magic remote around here? Because that's, you know, the theme of this one. As it was with the rest of them, you know. So, you know, Freddy starts attacking. She's running away with Nancy. Although you know, everybody gets, you know, a different name because they're doing this as a parody. So instead of Freddy, it's Teddy. But they're running through, you know, the boiler room and everything, and they jump off the ledge and land in Nancy's garden, which is what Elvira said would take place. But then Nancy's like, come on out, Luger, because of course it's Teddy Luger and not Freddy Krueger, I guess because of copyright issues and such. And, you know, when you're doing a parody, you don't usually use the real names of the characters or whatever. So she jumps Freddy, and Elvira's just like, you know, this girl's kind of plucky or whatever. But she's also realizing that she was in the boiler room with Freddy Krueger, and she did not see the remote around, and usually the remote is wherever, you know, the villain's lair is. So she's thinking to herself that that wasn't the villain's lair, and she's going to have to find out where that is. That's the goal in each of these books, is to find out where the villain's lair is, because that's where you're going to find the magic remote that will take her home. So, of course, they wake up now, and they're in Nancy's bed. And, you know, they're sitting there, you know, making their jokes or whatever. And, of course, Freddy Luger, or Teddy Luger, Freddy Krueger, whoever, shows up again. And she just calls a timeout. And they're just like, you can't call a timeout. And now she's kind of explaining that, again, we're in a movie, a horror movie, and that's how she knows, you know, everything that's going to take place and everything, and asking them again if they've seen a remote. Some of the jokes in this don't land as well as I think it did in other books. For instance, we all know that Freddy Krueger's favorite thing is to call somebody a bitch, right? Rick and Morty did it with Scary Terry. And then here, of course, I guess because this is a maybe a PG comic or whatever, calls her you witch. All right, that's fine. I just don't feel it lands as well. But I do think it's kind of funny that we have a lot of different attachments here going on. His hand's more like a Swiss Army knife. Instead of just having the claws, he's got corkscrews and things like that on it. Right, so Nancy, of course, hits Teddy with a coffee pot. They run away into a room where Nancy's got her booby traps set up. And Elvira makes the joke of that'll caulking him good, based on Home Alone. So, yeah, I mean, we know that what Home Alone's done and everything. But, yeah, you know, again, I don't feel the jokes landed that well in this issue, even though I thought this was going to be one of the better ones because it was Freddy. I figured this was right up the alley. But Elvira thinks that the mother is possibly the villain because she had originally killed Teddy Luger, creating this dream monster that's out to murder the children. So when they go into the mother's room, she's surprised to see there's not even a TV in there. So there's no TV remote. So she's still stuck in this movie. But then she starts saying that because it's a dream universe and such, that she can like dream her way into this other stuff. Now this is where, you know, she's like chanting, trying to, you know, go into this dream world or whatever. And she says, "Calgon, take me away." Now I'm 50 years old. Okay. So I remember that joke, but I don't know. I guess just people around my age would be the Elvira fans that are buying this comic. So I guess it has to be for us. But I do feel like that is an incredibly dated joke. There were other ways you could have went with something like that. So I think it's wild that they would go that route, because I got to be honest with you, like I only remember that as a kid. So you're talking about at least a 40-year-old joke here. But okay. You know, that's fine. Again, I didn't think it played too well here. But, you know, she dreams herself into another dream, and I think it changes because we have Nancy here, you know, change clothes and everything. We're in a different location, and her dead father shows up. And, of course, Elvira's like, no, that's not your dad. That's Teddy Luger. And she says that Teddy Luger is played by Norman Britton, which, if we know Nightmare on Elm Street, we know the lead, the actor playing Freddy Krueger is Robert Englund, even though it's not spelled as England, it's England. I guess that was a play on words there or whatever. Okay, that's fine. I feel like they could have just went with England, since his name is Englund, because, you know, it's near the same, but it's different, but it works closer. But, you know, it's fine. You know, and she's saying that, you know, he's a bad character actor under a ton of latex. That's the only way he can get his job. And Teddy Luger pops out of this disguise, and she's like, you know, I was only joking about that because I think you're a great actor. I just needed you to show yourself or whatever so that Nancy could see it. And, of course, you know, he takes a swipe at her with his claws or whatever. Now, in the background here, we can see that, again, the setting has changed. We went straight over to Nightmare on Elm Street 3, The Dream Warriors, my personal favorite of all of the Freddy movies. Not that anything really comes from it. Like, they're there, but they never... These characters are there, but they never say anything, you know? There was kind of... Just seems like there was no point to have them in here because, you know, we went from the first movie to the third movie. I can't remember the second too much to know if Nancy even made an appearance in that one. So maybe that's why they did, you know, the skip or whatever. But then Elvira has an idea and says, okay, she knows where the villain's lair is now. So they jump on over to the 7th movie, which was a New Nightmare, where basically they're filming A Nightmare on Elm Street. And so here we have, oh wow, Wes Craven, okay. But I think they're calling him Les Maven in this, you know, okay. I guess that's funny in a way. I don't know, but either way. So she's saying because Les is the guy who created Teddy Luger, that he is in fact the real villain. So they go into his home theater where she finds the remote. And once she finds the remote, let's see, as soon as we, you know, get past this, Freddy shows up again and starts attacking, knocking the remote out of Elvira's hand. They all jump after it, like they're all reaching for it as it slips out of one hand into another, until somebody else snatches it. And we see here is, wow, not so fast sunshine. And then we see these guys here coming out of this portal. And he's like, you know, hey there, we're going to need you to come with us. And she's just like, you know, I have a lot of questions, blah, blah, blah. And he's like, you know, sorry to butt in, folks, or whatever. And he just grabs Elvira up, takes her away. And Freddy here is crying because he feels the whole movie, everything is, has been ruined. So I'm going to go on record right now as saying I'm not the biggest Marvel fan, especially when it comes to, I mean, so back in the day I read X-Men and Spider-Man. That was my thing. But, I didn't jump into the Marvel Cinematic Universe so much. It wasn't for me. I didn't enjoy a lot of the movies. I enjoyed a lot of the ones in Phase 1, but, kind of died out for me after that. So I can only assume here, because I've seen, like, previews or pictures or just stuff online, and obviously you can tell that's Owen Wilson. And because of the mustache, I'm thinking that it's a character from one of the Marvel movies or something like that. So this whole thing didn't work out for me. And I guess as a writer, you're thinking, oh, everybody loves the Marvel Cinematic Universe or whatever, so everybody's watched everything. And I didn't. I dropped out of it pretty early because, like, the movies, like, come on. After Phase 1, everything that came out was just the worst. There was, like, no... Avengers 2 was horrible. Iron Man 2 was horrible. Everything was fucking horrible. I enjoyed the Captain America movies, except for the third one, because Civil War, that didn't really work for me either. For a movie with all these superheroes fighting, it was kind of boring. But, big deal. So I'm not getting any of this reference. Now, the only thing I will say is funny is that, on this first page here, we see that the Owen Wilson character says, wow. Okay, so we know that that's a thing that Owen Wilson does. So here, Elvira's like, so where am I? And he says, wow, again. And she's like, yeah, that's like your catchphrase, but seriously, where am I? And he's like, you, my dear, are at WOW headquarters, Watchmen over World Space, okay? So I guess that's just a play on Owen Wilson saying, wow, all the time, because that's, what he does. So I guess, that's kind of funny. But basically, he's telling her that she's not only been, jumping through movies, she's been jumping through time. All of these movies were filmed in different time periods, so we can see that working. But this is also going to comics that took place before this series. So they're explaining, how she had time traveled in some time traveling coffin, but then she also went to hell. I will do those books in the future because honestly, I haven't gotten them. The only other one I have besides this is when she meets Vincent Price, which is actually before this series. But she's just like, these were just movies, so she didn't really, mess anything up. She's thinking, the second that she left the movie just restarted. And Owen Wilson's like, wow, I can't believe you said they were just movies and that they weren't important because things are getting messed up, blah, blah, blah. And she's like, okay, well, I promise not to do it again as long as I can go home. And she snatches the remote from him and hits the button where he screams out, wait, don't do that. And then she appears in one of my favorite movies, The Fly, okay, with Jeff Goldblum and Gina Davis. David Cronenberg's Fly. It's a great movie. I'm going to say this. I didn't think this looked so much like Jeff Goldblum, but that is one dead-on Gina Davis right there. That was some good work. When I looked at that face, I'm just like, wow. I think Gina Davis has a face that translates to comics really well. So, to be funny, it says next issue is Naked Brunch. Instead of saying The Fly, we have David Cronenberg's Naked Lunch. So I guess, just doing a play on words or whatever to switch it up. So I'll be doing that issue in the future. So that was the issue of issue 4. And just so you guys can see here are the alternative covers that they put out for this book. That's a lot of covers, but it's fine. Again, I'm a fan of the real photographs or whatever that were taken of Elvira. So most of the books I have that. But to be honest, I also just kind of grabbed whatever was on the shelf. If they had more than one copy of a different cover or whatever, I grabbed the one that I liked, and that was it. So, but that's just to show you some of the, alternate covers that they had for the book. All right, guys, so that's the end of this video. I want to thank you guys for watching. But again, my name is Bob, and I'm a comic book artist. I'm currently working on my comic Ghost Girl, which you can see right here. In the next month or two, this book should be complete, at which time I will be selling it. Or if you were, somebody who joined in on a Kickstarter or whatever, you'll probably be getting a copy of it from that. If this is something, first of all, if you like the video, go ahead and hit like. If this is, if you like the video that you would like to see more, or if you might be interested in the comic that I'm going to be putting out, hit subscribe so that way you'll get information on the comic as it comes out. All right, so again, guys, thanks for watching, and until next time. Okay, hello everyone, this is Bob again, and today I'm going to be doing a review of Elvira in Horrorland number 5, the last of that series. I'm going to be doing a different little format today than what I would usually do. So normally I would just record going through the physical copy of the comic, but I do have the digital copy and some scans of pages that I'm going to use. Sorry, that is my dog. That is going to be happening while I'm recording. Okay, so again, this time I'm going to be doing this a little differently. I'm going to be doing this more as a digital thing and piecing it together instead of just running, a camera as I look through the physical copy. So we're going to see how this goes. So I'm going to start here with the cover to Elvira number 5, which is the one featuring Cassandra Peterson, which is, in my opinion, always the best one. I do love the art by Sylvia Califano, but if we get a chance to see Cassandra Peterson, that's what we want to see. So this is the cover that I'm showing, but when I look over here, we do have the one by another artist whose name is escaping me, El Castel. Not bad, right? But again, this one is Elvira in Horrorland featuring the movie The Fly, because as the rest of the series is gone, she ends up in different horror movies using a magical remote, and this being the last issue, she ends up in David Cronenberg's The Fly. Okay, so this page, which has an awesome picture of Elvira that I like a lot, gives you a little bit of backstory to what has gone on. And since it's been a while since I've done this, I'm just going to go ahead and read it. But it says here that it turns out that movies create their own little pocket dimensions. I bet you always suspected it. Elvira is stuck inside those dimensions, and the only way to get home is a magical artifact, the remote control of Federico Fellini. But she hasn't figured out how it works, and in every new dimension she has to find it all over again. Previously, she's been chased around 2 different hostels by a psycho mama's boy and a hammy actor, got supremely alienated aboard a doomed starship, met the man of everyone's dreams and his puppet master. Now she's flying by the seat of her pants, and she doesn't wear pants. Okay? So that was the recap, not read, perfectly by me. Big deal. It's what's going to be. Sometimes my mouth doesn't want to work. Okay, but here she is just popping out of the telepod in front of Jeff Goldblum and Gina Davis. And, of course, they're completely surprised. And they're like, who are you? Okay. She immediately goes into telling them what's going to be happening with them. That, this is a dream date, that he's going to get jealous of her ex-boyfriend and teleport through the telepod with a fly in there that's going to mix and make him Mumblefly, which I think is a pretty good joke, considering it's Jeff Goldblum, kind of the way that he mumbles, and in the movie it was Brundlefly, right? So that's what we're getting. But as she's explaining this, a hand starts to come out of the TV, and she's like, "Don't worry, I'll handle this," and it's get it because there's a hand or whatever. So she goes over there with her high heel and hits the hand and stops it from taking the magic remote that she's going to need to get back home. So she's, again, telling them everything. She's not keeping anything back. She's explaining the whole series of events that's taking place. And that it's the magic remote that will, take her home, or that has given her the ability to transport through dimensions, which are different classic horror movies. Okay. But of course, they look at her like she's crazy and that she has no idea what's going on, or she has no idea what she's saying because she's crazy, because none of this, makes any sense. But basically, that's it. So now we have the hands coming back out of the television again that Elvira didn't see, which grabs her and pulls her through. Okay. She gets pulled through by an apparent James Woods into, I think this is Videodrome. And this is where everybody can feel free to go ahead and attack me in the comments. That's a movie I have not seen. I believe it's on Tubi right now, so I should go check it out. But I'm pretty sure the only David Cronenberg film I've ever seen is The Fly, which is a shame. I do have to make time to watch those at some point because I do enjoy horror flicks, and I definitely enjoyed The Fly. I only know what this is because the artwork is good enough that we can see that this is James Woods, and that is the only one I can think of that would have been a David Cronenberg film. But basically, he pulls her through the TV onto his set of a Videodrome, and then she's going to use the remote against him, but he ends up pulling a gun out of his stomach, which I can only assume is something that takes place in that movie. That seems like a very Cronenberg thing to occur. So he pulls this gun and fires at her, where she ducks behind a chair that, she's literally 3 feet away from the guy, as we can see. So that's kind of funny that, first of all, the chair would stop a bullet, and then second, that he can't aim at her from 3 feet away. But either way, she throws the magic remote at him, hitting him in the face. But now he has the remote, and he tries to use it, and it is not working. So he's getting upset. So he ends up throwing the remote back at her and pulling the gun and, saying, hey, tell me how to use this thing. We got to figure this out because I want out of this. At this point, we are introduced to this guy that she refers to as Havoc from another of Cronenberg's movies, which is, we know as Scanners, but in the comic it's being called Senders. And also, instead of David Cronenberg, we're getting Daniel Chernobog. So, they have to switch the names around because we know this is parody and everything, that they can't, I guess, use the exact names of these things. But we get introduced to him, who comes in and he's, I want out of this world as well. You're going to be giving me this remote. Don't forget what I'm able to do. I think, again, this is another movie I have never seen. I should have seen it. I know the infamous scene of this person's head blowing up. So it looks like that's what he's able to do. Also, he's able to read her thoughts. And she's like, that's fine. If you're going to go ahead and read my thoughts, don't be afraid to erase some bad memories I have of like a bad date that I had in the 10th grade or whatever. So just as that's going on, now we have Owen Wilson again, which I believe is the character from the show Loki, from Disney Plus. That's the only thing I can figure out. I've never seen that show. I have no plans of watching it, even if it explains things that are going on here. But this is, the thing when you're going to write a comic that, like, again, that's my dog. If you're going to write a comic that kind of, goes through all kinds of media and different forms of, entertainment, from horror to action flick, superhero, whatever, there's going to be things that you're not going to see, that's just the way that is. So you're not going to get every joke. I guess the writer here thought that everything that he was putting in here, everybody should know. And for the most part, it's what I did know, until we got to this book. And then I realized I never watched a lot of David Cronenberg movies. I've never watched Loki. So a lot of these jokes and such are not landing with me. But he ends up, his soldiers end up shocking James Woods, and I don't, is that supposed to be Michael Ironside? It may be. I'm gonna have to look that up. Again, I did no research before doing this video. I just read the comic, but they zap them and knock them out, and then he's like, you can come with me now, so that way we can start fixing things. But I think she's afraid that he's going to erase her, and that the only way she can, get back to her real world and everything is to run away from him, which she does by jumping through the television in the same manner that he, did coming out of it into this world. Okay. She ends up back in the movie The Fly, and they start telling her that, hey, we took your advice. Like, you told me what's going to happen, so we just started doing different things, and I am not going to turn into a fly now. And she's like, okay, that's good. But of course, she's also kind of ruining this movie, which is why Owen Wilson is trying to stop her with his department of movie corrections or whatever it is. I'm not even sure anymore. It was called WOW, but I can't remember what the acronym stood for. Okay. But also, as they're talking, Gina Davis's ex-boyfriend in the movie, whose name I can't remember, but in this, I believe they are calling him Rathis. He is trying to sabotage all of this, so he climbs into the telepod, and apparently there is a yellow jacket in the telepod with him. So we're not getting a fly. So, of course we know what's going to happen here. Now, again, this is a parody, right? But in the movie, it took a very long time for Jeff Goldblum to transform into a fly. And it took like several teleportations and everything for this, for this, all of this progress. This guy does one teleport and he comes out and he's perfectly a hybrid human yellow jacket type thing or whatever. So that's wild. But the thing attacks Elvira. And then Owen Wilson shows up again and he's like, okay, look, I can save you, but if I do, you can't run away anymore. And she's like, okay, fine. That's what's going to have to happen. Okay. They did threaten to erase her, because of everything she's been doing. And she's like, come on, you wouldn't delete somebody like me, would you? Now we get introduced to two other people, which I can only assume, and here we go, I'm going to get yelled at again, are from Naked Lunch, because I know that this is, oh man, what is his name? You know what? That's it. I'm gonna look it up real quick. It's the guy who played RoboCop, and I just can't remember his name. Peter Weller. I wanted to say Peter Sellers at first, and that's why I double checked it. But yeah, you can see that this is clearly Peter Weller. He looks like a detective, and since I've seen little snippets of Naked Lunch, I know that that's what it's supposed to be. I also know that's a David Cronenberg film. So, apparently they come out and they take the remote from Elvira, and apparently, like, they're in charge of all of this. So they kind of tell her how she can get back to the real world because, this is a continuation of another comic, and I'm going to get into that series. But it's Elvira meets Vincent Price. And it's at the end of that she gets sucked into the TV in the same manner that Vincent Price comes out of the TV. So she kind of realizes that she had the power all along to just come back into the real world, or, real world in quotes. So she I just like looks through the fourth wall into her world and realizes, okay, I could just come through the TV. Says goodbye to everybody. In the vein of Wizard of Oz, of course, because of all the puns. And she comes out and she's free. And she starts telling Eddie about everything that took place. And Eddie's like, wow, that's wild. But tell me the truth. Are you sure you're back, that this still isn't a game? And this scares her for a moment. And she's like, I should clobber you for that. And then that is it. That is the end of Elvira in Monsterland. It was an enjoyable ride. I liked it a lot. The only one that didn't hit me as hard as the other ones is this last issue, because, again, I'm just not... it's not to say I'm not a Cronenberg fan. I love The Fly, but it just happens to be the only movie I've ever seen. So a lot of the jokes didn't land with me. Now, if I go watch all of these films, I'm sure I'm going to be like, oh yeah, I learned all of this from Elvira in Horrorland. Here on the final page, we have all of the alternative covers. Again, the best one being the one with the real Cassandra Peterson. But they always have so many covers to these books. It's kind of wild. But okay, so that was the end of Elvira in Horrorland. I want to thank you guys for watching. Let me know in the comments if you prefer this format over the format of me just flipping pages through the comic. Also, I'm still working on my comic Ghost Girl. I know I fell behind in how for when I wanted to have this done, but I am currently still working on it. If you like this video, please hit like. It helps my channel grow. If you want to see more videos like this, please hit subscribe. I tend to bring one out almost every day. So I want to thank you guys for watching, and see you next time.